What if your lifespan was represented by the leaves on the tree, and with every word you spoke, another leaf would fall off, and then what would happen when all those leaves fell off? Would you be using your words more wisely? Would you be more cautious about the way you spoke about yourself and other people?
I guess I just have to pick myself up, dust myself off, and throw myself right back down again.
That's the spirit. You suck.
Knowing that every word you spoke was going to hold a lot of power. So, spoiler alert for those of you who've never seen the movie 1,000 Words, starring Eddie Murphy. The movie is about this big-time agent, Jack McCall, who loves talking and schmoozing people for a living, but then, right after meeting this guy Sinja,
Quiet your mind until there are no thoughts.
He sees the blue pearl.
this massive yogi-type spiritual celebrity who wrote a book that Jack was trying to be the agent for, a tree suddenly appears in his backyard.
You and this tree are now connected.
And what Jack ultimately discovers is that every time he speaks a word, another leaf falls off the tree.
Seems like every time I say something, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, ribs.
And what happens when all the leaves fall off?
What happens when a tree loses all its leaves, Jack?
Well, typically, that would mean that, the tree is dying.
How many leaves you think are left on this tree?
1,000?
So what do I got, 1,000 words left?
Or it could actually be some type of rebirthing process. Then Jack ends up having a whole spiritual awakening, and this is where I come in. Because in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 biggest life lessons that can be learned from this movie, 1,000 Words. So without further ado, let's dive right into this video now. What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the Jared and James channel. I'm Jared Weiss. If you guys didn't know, that must mean you're not subscribed to the channel, so you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts on this video, follow me on every platform. So, as I already mentioned, for today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 biggest life lessons to be learned from the movie 1,000 Words, which is a very powerful movie. I believe it came out in 2012, and as I already spoke about in the intro, I already gave you guys the whole spoiler alert as far as the whole plot of the movie.
I know the basic plot, yeah.
And if you guys haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend watching it. So, life lesson number 1 to be learned from the movie is that, as cliche as it sounds, actions speak louder than words. Words can be great and are super powerful, so I'm not going to be saying that it has to be one or the other. It's almost like how it is when it comes to the whole health argument. Some practitioners are only about the mind.
I said empty your mind. Be formless.
And other practitioners are only about the body.
I lift things up and put them down.
But I believe that when you actually combine the two, then you actually become this unstoppable force, and you can actually work on healing your life as a whole, as opposed to only focusing on certain individual aspects. So words can be great and are powerful, and that's the whole reason why I love talking. That's why I love listening to podcasts. That's the whole reason why I have my own podcast, because I believe in what I'm saying, and I believe that words have the power to uplift people, it has the power to inspire people, it has the power to entertain people. So words are awesome. But if you're not actually practicing what you preach, no one's gonna believe you, you're ultimately gonna get exposed, and you're ultimately gonna be seen as a fraud.
You didn't call me a phony!
Which is why, as I'm always saying, I'm the same person in real life, in the real world, as I am on social media, because I don't know how to be anyone other than myself.
Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. What you see is what you get.
So everything that I'm speaking to you guys is the same conversations I'm going to have in real life, and I'm actually going to put forth the time and effort into my actions to make myself the most positive, loving, truth-based self that I could possibly be, because it's the same thing who I'm speaking about on this podcast. A lot of people know how to talk the talk, a lot of people know how to schmooze people, a lot of people know just the right things to say to get enough views or to get people drawn to them. But how many people are actually going to be walking the walk? How many people are actually going to be putting actions behind those words? How many people are actually going to be to do what they're saying rather than just talk about it? Because anyone can talk about things.
I got the shakes that'll make you quake. I got the fries that'll cross your eyes.
But it takes real effort and it takes actual hard work in order to implement those actions into their lives. As Dr. Sinja tells Jack towards the end of the movie, when Sinja is telling Jack to actually make peace with the fact that he might be dying, he says to him, "Do you have any unresolved conflicts or any unresolved relationships in your life?"
You need to find peace. Do you have any other unresolved relationships in your life?
And then he says to him, so then they're talking about his marriage, and Sinja says to Jack, "Does your wife know that you love her?"
Does she know that you love her?
And Jack replies, "I tell her that all the time."
Tell her that all the time!
And Sinja says back to him, "Words, more words. more words are meaningless. You have to show her that you love her.
Words? More words, Jack. You tell her? Like meaningless leaves that fly off a dying tree? Can't you show her that you love her?
Show and tell. It doesn't have to be just one or the other. I think that when you combine both, then you actually have real power behind your words. And you can actually get people to believe in what you're saying. So that's number 1. Number 2, the second life lessons we learn from this movie is that we can learn a lot through silence, like meditation. Because when we're meditating, I believe that we're actually allowing God to flow through us, and we're actually allowing the divine, the higher powers to flow through us, and we allow ourselves to become vessels for this higher spiritual force. When our lives are constantly filled with busyness,
how busy would you say you are on a scale of 8 to 9?
14!
And tons of noise.
You want the noise brought on you? Because here it comes. What? The noise brought on you.
That doesn't actually contribute to our spirits. We become flooded with things that don't actually represent who we are. So that's why it's so important, I believe, to be starting our days with silence, to be getting out in nature more often, to be meditating and listening to what our bodies want. Because our bodies, our intuition, our minds know what's good for us, but if we're not listening to them, how are we ever going to be able to get in tune with them and know what they actually desire? In this current world, and of course in this whole current hustle culture that many of us have become accustomed to, we don't actually listen to our own inner voices, and we don't listen to what God or what our lives as a whole are trying to teach us and trying to tell us about ourselves and what we need more of and the things that we actually have to get rid of. So that's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is gonna be treat everyone with equal respect. As the golden rule always goes, and as a rule that I live by for anyone who knows me, is treat others how you want to be treated and treat everyone with kindness. Because we're all children of God, and even though we all have our differences, it doesn't mean that we can't still inspire others and we can actually make the world a better place by simply just being nice to people and by respecting others and being kind to them. Whether you're a mailroom guy,
I'm a United States postal worker because the mail never stops.
or whether you're the president of a company, you should be treating everyone with equal respect. So early on in the movie, 1,000 Words, Jack receives this book from one of the parking valets.
Go get his car.
But he won't even look at it because this guy isn't important to him, and this guy doesn't have a huge following, and this guy doesn't represent money to him. But by the end of the movie, what does Jack learn? He learns that we're all coming from the same creator, and so therefore, treating others right is actually going to be the same thing as treating yourself right. As I often say, your outer world is going to be a reflection of your inner world. So if you're not treating others right, then chances are you don't feel good about yourself, which is why you have all these haters in the comments who are going to leave nasty comments on your posts.
What are you going to hell?
Even if you're saying very positive things, is because these people don't actually feel good about themselves, so they're going to be reflecting that onto you. But I also fully believe that karma is real, and that the more good you do and the more good you put into the world, the better you treat people, all that positive energy is eventually going to flow back to you. And so at the end of the movie, Jack actually ends up reading this guy's book.
You actually read it?
And he tells him how it was actually a brilliant masterpiece.
Brilliant. So,
I love you.
But because Jack had been treating him so insignificantly and demeaning towards him at the start of the movie, the guy actually basically dirtied up and muddied up his car, but then he ends up apologizing and he says how thankful and how grateful he is.
Thank you. I'm gonna take care of that.
And also, as simple as it sounds, the better and kinder you are to other people, the better you're going to feel about yourself, and all those positive endorphins that you're putting out towards others is going to end up returning the favor, and it's actually going to end up magnifying that love and that kindness tenfold back towards you and towards the way that you actually feel about yourself. And furthering this concept of treating others and doing unto others as you would have done unto you, it's like from this book I read a few years ago called Hustle by Joshua Medcalf. One of the powerful life lessons like this guy learned on his own journey is that if he can't treat this one client, so like this guy was doing some type of personal training and possibly even basketball training, I believe, or it could have been some type of sports psychology coaching, but anyways, this guy realized that if he can't treat this one everyday average Joe type of client,
you're perfect just the way you are, then Joe's is the place for you.
Like he would treat Chris Paul, and ultimately he doesn't deserve to have Chris Paul as one of his clients. The people who are going to big time others and say to them, oh, I'm only going to talk to you if you have this many followers or if you have this much money.
My dad was the greatest, but nobody loves a nobody.
I want to be a somebody.
I believe that like those people are actually going to lose it all in the end, coming back to the concept of karma. And that's also like the whole reason why when it comes to guests who I have on the podcast, or when it comes to people who are in my inner circle, who are my best friends, or when it even just comes to conversations I have on an everyday basis at the gym or out in the world. I don't care how many followers you have. I don't care how much money you have. I'm all about character. If you're a good, kind-hearted person, you work hard, you treat others right, and if you have something interesting to say, I'll gladly speak to you for as long as you want. I'll have you on the podcast, I'll have deep conversations with you out in the real world, because all those superficial things aren't important to me. What's important to me is that you're a kind person and you treat others with respect, because if you can treat others with respect, that tells me way more about who you are as a person, as opposed to any type of qualification you may have.
Dr. Cosmo Kramer, proctology.
The type of house you have, the type of car you have, how much money you have, all this stuff is insignificant to me as opposed to the content of your character.
You don't have to live at the top of the reef to be a somebody.
Number 4. The fourth life lesson I learned from the movie 1,000 Words is what you fear most may come true, but you can ultimately handle it. Jack McCall was someone who talked all day for a living, and then he finds out that he only has 1,000 words left to say, and then he doesn't know whether he's gonna die or what's actually gonna happen. And also, like everything that happens to this tree happens to him. So like, if someone hits the tree or if someone sprays something on the tree, he ends up feeling it himself.
Damn, Jack, look at you sweating like a bitch. Just chill out, homie. I got this.
So his biggest fear had come true. And oftentimes, that's what actually happens in our lives. We fear something for all these years, and then that fear actually comes true. But what we end up realizing is that that fear oftentimes is actually an illusion. And when it actually comes true, we realize how much power we have, and when we ultimately conquer that thing that we think we can't, we become our strongest selves and we take back our power over that fear.
If you just do the thing that they tell you you can't, then it's done, and you realize it is that simple.
What you actually think right now may be the worst possible thing that could happen to you. And obviously, this doesn't apply to every situation, but like, whatever you think is your biggest fear right now, the thing that you're avoiding so much, may actually be the exact thing that God and the world hands you to teach you the biggest life lessons and show you more about yourself than you could have ever learned otherwise. It's like with my whole situation, when it comes to my whole life-threatening illness. I'm not someone who deserved to go through this, quote-unquote, but for all these years, I used to focus on eating healthy and exercising as a way of preventing anything like this from ever happening. But I also want to show people that anything is possible.
Anything's possible!
So what ends up happening? I end up going through the most challenging circumstances that life had to offer, and then what do I realize on the other side? That I'm now stronger, I've leveled up my life in so many other ways, I'm still healing, but like, I'm making progress every day, and I show myself that like, I don't need situations or circumstances to be perfect in order to inspire people, and I don't need them to be perfect in order to make progress in so many areas of my life. So I can actually show myself that anything is possible by experiencing my biggest fear that I had for all these years. Of course, as I mentioned in the past, I do believe there were other causes as to why I went through what I did, but none of those causes like I actually knew about, such as certain vaccines and stuff like that, and toxins from medications that end up leading to my situation being what it was. But anyways, I thought I was doing everything to take control of my health and of my life, but then what I realized was that there was so much more to learn, and that even though I went through so many hard times and I've been through so many challenges in my life, especially in this past few years, I realized that I could handle anything and I could overcome it all. And this is gonna translate into areas of my life where I actually needed to learn these lessons.
I'm here to learn, everybody!
And to use these new strengths and these new abilities to achieve ultimate success in these areas of my life. So what happened with Jack McCall was, he was so afraid of not being able to talk.
The more you talk, the more leaves fall, the sicker you get.
The sicker I get, so I could die. I could die?
Because he didn't think that he could get his message across to people without talking. And it's actually similar to me when it comes to my whole speech challenges. So like, for a while, and for the first few years after having started with these speech challenges as a result of my life-threatening illness, I would think to myself, like, other people aren't going to value what I have to say, and that the only way that other people are going to value me is when I'm all better ultimately. But what I realized, and what Jack realized in the movie 1,000 Words, is that we could still get our messages across, and we can still use our actions to show people.
Not just with your mouth, with your mind. Can't you show her that you love her?
How much they matter to us. In Jack's case, he could use less words to hold more power over what he's trying to say to people.
You, me, we, eternity.
I could still have super powerful, like, awesome conversations with all these people, even if it may take longer to get my words out and to get my message out. But like, it doesn't mean it can't be done. And the same thing happened with Jack. he realized that even though he had this limited supply of words, he realized that his actions were showing more than his words. He realized that rather than saying all these meaningless words, he was going to actually use his words wisely. He was going to treat people with respect, show them how much they matter.
Is this for me? Is this really for me to keep?
Yes.
And that thing that scared him for all these years of not being able to talk, he conquered that obstacle. And he showed himself and others, as I'm showing myself and others, that these things don't have to limit me. Number 5, the 5th life lessons we learned from the movie 1,000 Words is to make peace with your past, whether it be others or yourself, which means having forgiveness. As I often say, forgiveness is for yourself. It doesn't mean that like you have to forget what the other person did, or it doesn't mean that, like you actually are approving of your own actions in the past. It just means that you're making peace with what was and you're allowing yourself to move on to what will be. It doesn't mean that every person did right by you in your past. It doesn't mean that you actually did all the right actions in the past or said the right things. But if you can't forgive others who wronged you in the past, and if you can't forgive yourself, you're never going to be able to move on. And that's what happens with Jack McCall in this movie. At the end of the movie, when he's wondering whether or not he's going to die when all the leaves fall off the tree,
Carries that anger every day. I wish he'd let it go.
Never know if the last time you see someone is going to be the last time you ever see someone.
he gets silent, he meditates, he takes himself back to his inner child, and he realizes that his dad leaving him at a young age hurt him a lot. But what he says is, "I forgive you."
I forgive you.
And that ultimate transformation is actually what allowed the tree to birth new life into him. So this is a powerful analogy, because when we're able to forgive ourselves or forgive others who wronged us in the past, we could then move on with our own new life, and we could breathe new life into ourselves and into our future goals. A lot of people are going to use their past as a reason why they are the way they are, without actually taking steps to change and to realize that, like, your past doesn't have to define you, your past self doesn't have to define you. You have power at any moment to make a change. You can change for the better.
You can change, you can adapt.
You could implement new strategies, you could work on yourself. So while your past might be a reason why you are the way you are, and it may even be a valid excuse, but like, it doesn't have to define you. You can forgive, you don't have to forget, but you do need to forgive and love yourself as you are now, and then you're going to be able to move on, show love to your past self, show love to your inner child, and this is going to revitalize your spirit, and it's going to bring a more loving, caring, kind-hearted person into the world. So anyways guys, let me know if this video resonated with you. Let me know what your thoughts are on the movie if you guys have seen it. Let me know if I actually left out any life lessons that you guys may have learned from the movie. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.